On the Adonis interlude off of the Creed 3 soundtrack, JCole said, "Just cop the fall off and he'll explain. Is it the end of the chapter, happy ever after? Bet this gonna be the year he fulfill his reign." Man! And after years of hype and anticipation, the fall off has finally released on 2/6/26, clocking in at over an hour and 40 minutes with 24 tracks. Is this the album that JCole promised? Does it deliver on being his final album? Well,
the universe is mine. I wanna cripple the lake. I wanna biggie me face. I wanna be at the top. I want my rip full of rocks. I wanna drink us a rock. Posted in Paris somewhere on a yacht. I need to count the guap. Chasing a million.
yo, YouTube, what is good? Happy to be talking to my favorite family on the internet again. Had to, channel my inner JCole with the fit. And man, I am so excited to finally be talking about the fall off with you guys. I'm glad to finally be in a speaking position to talk about this. My voice was gone for a little bit if you didn't watch the previous video, but I'm back and ready to discuss an album I was so excited and hyped for. I'll never forget getting the notification for the fall off initial announcement and getting disc 2 track 2 the song and sending it to my homie, letting him know, yo, Cole drop, he is on the way. And we were talking about it the entire day, just breaking down how excited for the fall off we were. And man, I have such a long history with the J. Cole. I've really grown up with a lot of his work. Power Trip was my ish growing up. I used to hear that song all the time on the radio, and I just love him and Miguel's back and forth. I love J. Cole and Miguel as a duo in general. Like, I just love their back and forth bars and what they both offer to the track. J. Cole has this authoritative, rapping thing going on, and Miguel has this sweet, melodic, like, singing voice, and it just comes together, and they make phenomenal tracks together. Really sad to think that they may never do that again, because this is supposed to be J. Cole's retirement album. I don't think it will be, but we're gonna see. And man, it's been so awesome to truly grow up with his artistry and see how far he's come as an artist. So when it was announced that the fall off was coming, I was there, baby. I was there day one. I prepared. I went through his entire discography, from his mixtapes to his albums to the mixtape. Oh my gosh, when he dropped Birthday Blizzard 2/6, I was convinced that this was going to be the second coming of Christ. The fall off was going to be the second coming. That mixtape is phenomenal. Like, him choosing to drop that on his birthday as a prelude to the energy that we were going to get into on the fall off was perfect, because when I tell you I still listen to those tracks, there's multiple tracks on that mixtape where it sounds like he's running out of breath. I think about the first track where he's like, "Apology drop me way out of the top," and you can hear him like he like it's so cool. Like, J. Cole is just into it, and I'm in there with him, and he's delivering phenomenal bars. And oh my gosh, J. Cole is truly one of the most talented and proficient rappers in the game, top of the heap. And the mixtape, and spoiler about how I feel about the fall off, but the fall off really proves a lot about what J. Cole offers as a musician. It's so funny. I remember I was really tired that Thursday before the fall off, and I had taken like a nap before the album was initially supposed to drop, and it was like at 9. I don't know why I took a nap. I don't know what woke me up, but I took a nap at like 9, and I had a dream that I was listening to the fall off, and then I woke up like 30 minutes before the album came out. So I was excited. Excited is an understatement if you couldn't tell. I had a lot of expectations for the fall off, especially with disc 2 track 2 and the initial announcement and the letter he posted with him talking about the difference between disc 29 and disc 39, confirming that yes, it is a double album. I don't know why there was such back and forth. Some people were like, "Oh, I don't know if this is a double album." I was like, the initial single is called Disc 2 Track 2. Why would it not be? Anyways, everybody wants their engagement. But so I was really excited to see what storytelling we were going to get into, and really just J. Cole's mindset that he was going to bring to the fall off. And I gotta say, he more than delivered. Yes, spoiler alert, but this is going to be just like a glazed review of the fall off, because I adore this album. Just to give y'all some insight into how much I love this album, from Friday to this Friday when Brent Faiyaz like dropped his album, I was listening to nothing but the Fall Off. No joke, no lie. I was listening to the tracks over and over and over. I was living in the Fall Off. Like, I was in the studio with JCole making that at that point. And when I tell you, I was getting goosebumps from multiple of the tracks over and over and over again. And even when I do go back and listen to some tracks now, I was listening to some to prepare for the review, I still was getting goosebumps. That I can't even remember the last time that's happened. There's some tracks where I'm like, ooh, get into that, like with scores and stuff. But when it comes to like lyrical music and stuff like that, I rarely get goosebumps, but I still get goosebumps from a lot of these tracks. The Fall Off more than delivered, and there's just so much to freaking love and dive into with this album. And man, let's just get into it. Number one, man, the storytelling for the Fall Off has to be some of the best storytelling in hip-hop. I think this is where JCole really flourishes, is with his storytelling ability. Not just here on the Fall Off, but with a lot of his other tracks. He's just so descriptive and so intentional with his emotions. This felt like I was listening to an audiobook. Like, the way he sequences the tracks and how the story flows from one side of the album to the other, it's flawless. It is truly flawless in its design. I feel like I am placed in J. Cole's youth. I am there in Fayetteville, North Carolina, y'all. I'm at the club. I'm trying to survive the let out with my boy. Like, I am there for all of that. I'm so locked in with these tracks just because of how descriptive he is with this. It is truly a testament to his talent and his proficiency as an artist for him to make me feel like I am right next to him when he's telling me these stories. Tracks that come to mind are, 29 Intro. I think 29 Intro, some people are like, I don't really feel the 29 Intro, I don't know how you could have an opinion on 29 Intro, by the way. It is an interlude. But I think opening it with 29 Intro of him, playing some James Taylor, him in the town, just really, it's a beautiful way to open the album. Y'all know I love my openings and endings. And the way he opened and ended this album, peak storytelling. It's cinema. It's cinema. And the production of this album really adds to this. I think this is some of Cole's best, most cinematic production he's ever had for an album ever. This album is a movie. The title for the Fall Off should be The Fall Off, J. Cole's movie, like his debut movie or whatever, because it's almost as long as a movie. And also, there's so many aspects of the album that contribute to that movie-like feeling, from the production, like I'm talking about right now, to the storytelling, to the bars, to the features. Oh my gosh, everything culminates into this beautiful pot that is the Fall Off, and it makes you feel like you're in the cinema with popcorn, some M&M's, some Coca-Cola, just enjoying the story that J. Cole is taking you on. I love the production of this album, from the when he's going to get a gun out of the car in drum and bass, or he's driving in a car, or I really love the sound effects on here. I'm big on like sound effects and ad-libs and stuff like that, and there's so much of that on here that contributes to the overall narrative of the Fall Off that I truly appreciate. Production, you deserve, phenomenal. This is easily J. Cole's best production for any album he's ever produced, and he has some solid production in my honest opinion. I know there's a lot of discourse about J. Cole's production and beats and him rapping over beats he produces, or he just needs a new production team. I don't subscribe to any of that noise. I think J. Cole fits perfectly where he is. I do love hearing him on some good mixtapes, like hearing other people's beats on mixtapes, because I loved hearing him on Money, Power, Respect. Dun, dun, dun. Ooh. Birthday Blizzard. If I wasn't on my break, I would have done a whole I'm Dante, 20, 30-minute breakdown about how much I enjoyed that project and how, oh my gosh, I could gush about that album. Shoot, this could be a Birthday Blizzard fall off review combo for all I care, because man, that is just perfect. That was perfect. I happily paying my money for the Birthday Blizzard 2.6. Please drop that on Spotify. I know you probably won't, because that would defeat the purpose, but still, for us fans and for people who have not gotten the chance to hear it, I cannot recommend Birthday Blizzard enough. I cannot recommend this album enough. The Fall Off is J. Cole's best album. Hands down. This is J. Cole's best album. We're seeing him at a level we've never seen him before. From, like I said, the Birthday Blizzard to here, there's just such a descriptive nature and feeling to the bars. Oh my gosh. I had to write these down. There are two bars that come to mind that really stick out. He says on the Villist, pride is a bitter... Oh my gosh. Pride is a bitter pill indeed, but it's best if you swallow. If not, your homie's gonna pay respect with the bottle. Pour that on the flesh of this Mother Earth while liquor slithers like a serpent across the mud and dirt to go rest in a pothole. Oh my God, I am there. When I was mentioning earlier about how I'm so locked in with the story of the Fall Off, and I am there, bars like this put you directly in the shoes. I'm imagining the liquor flowing out of the bottle, going into the, like he's talking about. The descriptive nature of the bars on here are some of the best I've seen in hip hop in a very long time. Another one, drum and bass. He says, quiet is kept. I feel the vibe of the whole city so tired and stressed from getting fed a steady diet of death. Mothers crying on steps while porch lights shine down on a giant puddle that now forms on the ground as she wept. Oh my... Cole! Jermaine! Cole! Yo! I'm there. If you are hearing these bars, see me read them out to you, and you cannot envision and picture all of this in your mind, you're lying. You are literally lying, because you don't get more descriptive than this. You don't. One of my favorite aspects of script reading from my homies, or just reading scripts in general, is how it places you in the narrative, and it's how it makes you feel. I think about some of my homies' scripts, and I'm just like, I'm here with you. I am here in this story. This script is so descriptive. I think that's one of my biggest problems when I'm writing scripts, is I'm not as descriptive as I need to be. And one of my friends was like, yo, like, Josh, like, you need more meat to your bone with this script. I need to be there with you. And these bars are a perfect example of being there in the story, in the narrative with J. Cole. And there are multiple other bars throughout the album that you're just there in the story with Cole. These are just two of my favorites. I love drum and bass and The Villist off disc 29, disc 39 respectively. He says, turn to the Lord is ironic at a time when young folks so violent they're let off at God in the flesh. I said, it's hot in here. It's hot in here. What J. Cole said, I'm gonna probably go to hell if Jesus asks for a feature, because these are some fire bars, so descriptive. I'm gonna sound like a broken record, but you're there with J. Cole. You are there with J. Cole throughout this entire album. And I also love to go back to the production. One thing I really appreciated about the production is how for disc 29, J. Cole said that part of the album is supposed to be him when he's young, when he's coming back to the city, coming back to the Ville, him getting all this fame, all this notoriety. Disc 39 is supposed to be closer to him when he's older, closer to where he is now, a little bit closer to peace, as he describes. And I love how the production showcases that as well, along with the bars and along with the sequencing. Disc 29 has this more aggressive, more in-your-face guitars, even when it's being more introspective, like with Bronx Road Blues, which I think that's one of my favorite J. Cole songs of all time. Alchemist, you are the greatest hip-hop producer out. No question. That is a disgusting beat. But when you have songs that are more introspective like that, even that, the beat is more up-tempo, more fast, more aggressive. But when you get to Disc 39, the production is a little bit slower. It slows down and wants you to digest what J. Cole is talking about. And I could not appreciate that more. I don't know how some people were like, oh man, I don't like Disc 39 and da-da-da-da. I honestly feel like people were going into Disc 39 coming off of the high that is Disc 29. Like, it is clearly different phases of his life. There are multiple aspects of this album that showcase that, hey, we're going in a different territory with Disc 39, which I cannot appreciate more. Now, I know there's been some discourse about the features. One of my expectations going into the album personally was I was expecting features. I'm not scared to admit it. I was expecting a JID feature, a Jay-Z feature, a Nas feature, a Kendrick. I was expecting all of that. But when you hear the album and you hear the features that he did pick, it makes so much sense. This is J. Cole's story. This is J. Cole's legacy, his tribute to the fans, to his legacy, to hip-hop. This is his story that he wants to tell. Notice for the features that J. Cole is the only one rapping on this album. And it should be that way. This is his story. This is his retirement album. This is his conclusion. This is him being, this is selfishly his project. I mean, that's for all artists. All artists, their project is their project. No one needs features. I adore how he utilized features on this track, from Tim's to Burna Boy to Future to Erykah Badu on the Villist. Oh my gosh, everyone's back and forth, and what they added to the overall project really boosted the narrative and the structuring of songs throughout this project, and I adored it. I'm so grateful for the people that were on this. Am I a little bummed that Ho and JID were not on here? Yes, but I understand why they weren't, and I appreciate what J. Cole was going for on this project overall. This project is not only a love letter to him, but a love letter to hip-hop. I give this album 10 out of 10 stars because of how intentional and how purposeful it is to celebrating the overall legacy of hip-hop. This 39 was more so a tribute to hip-hop. You had throwbacks to Outkast, to Lil Jon, to DMX, to Biggie, to Tupac, and this 29 when Who the F Is You, he's doing a complete rip, his own rip on Eminem's flow. Perfect, by the way. J. Cole, oh my gosh. There are things J. Cole does on this album that he cannot do when he was younger. And that is what I appreciate so much about this album, is his love of hip-hop, is J. Cole showing his growth in a genre that he adores and loves, and has multiple posters of his mentors and icons on his childhood wall. And this album just serves as a beautiful tribute to that. Everything on this album paints a perfect picture of J. Cole, of who J. Cole is, where he's been as an artist, and where he's heading. As someone who has grown up with J. Cole, who's been a fan for such a long time, I appreciate immensely what this album paints for not only us, his fans, but for hip-hop. Hip-hop is such a beautiful genre, and for J. Cole to dedicate this album not only to himself, but to a genre that's given him so much, it warms my heart. I've cried multiple times with this album. On Bombs in the Ville, Hit the Gas, there's the end of the track. And it's hard for me to cry to music. It's hard for me to cry to a lot of projects for some reason. But when it gets me hard. At the end of Bombs in the Ville and Hit the Gas, he was talking about, your boy going through things. I'm trying to remember the line. He was talking about he got a phone from the future so he could FaceTime his younger self. And I'm even getting emotional thinking about this because it's so real. Oh my God, I'm sorry. J. Cole, if you ever see this review, what you did with Bombs in the Ville is amazing. But he just talks about how as a younger individual, he felt like a failure. you know, he was going through so much. He felt like he wasn't getting it right. And J. Cole was like, look at my son, look at my oldest and my youngest son, and tell me, did you mess up? And that is such a powerful message. You know, I feel like, especially nowadays, we're so hard on ourselves for the dreams and things you want to accomplish that we often lose sight of what we're doing right. And for that track to be dedicated not only to his younger self, but to his future self, you know, and confirming that he's done right. Everything that has gone wrong has led to him having a wife and 2 beautiful children. That's a gift you can't put a price on. And I'm so glad J. Cole put that on the track. And also is a really great way of transitioning to disc 39. The transitions from tracks are perfect. The sequencing of this album is perfect, in my honest opinion. I really love how everything flows. It feels like a river. Going to it feeling like a movie. There's a clear beginning, middle, and end, and he displays that perfectly. I'm a huge fan of this album. I know there's some cons out there for some people. I really don't have any issues with this album, but I know there's some that might have issues with, like I said, the length. As I said in the beginning, the album is an hour and 41 minutes, 24 tracks. Some of the tracks are like 6 minutes, 5 minutes, and I know that could be an issue for some people. For me, they needed to be longer. They needed to be longer. I was having a ball with the fall off. I enjoyed every single track on here. I enjoyed the story it was painting. I will say though, even though I did enjoy it, one sort of iffy for me was the pacing sometimes, with how lengthy it is. Could be a bit janky, especially when you get to the later disc for disc 39. The pacing could be a little bit janky, but it overall makes sense. You know, on disc 39, there's more introspective tracks, more tracks dedicated to intimacy and love. You're not finna rap over Poor Thing, talk about some, yeah, my wife is the best, my best wife. Yeah, I love my wife, I love my kids. Like, it's love. You're not gonna attack it as this aggressive, like, rah, 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 in your face. You're gonna be slow with it. You're gonna be intentional with it, as love often is. You're just gonna attack it differently. It's a different attack. So it could oftentimes lead to the pacing of the album being a little funky. Overall, I didn't have an issue with it. I had so much enjoyment, and as a fan, as someone who loves hip-hop, this album served so much for me. I got so much out of this. I know there's a lot of discourse about this album. Some of it I can understand. I can understand the critiques about J. Cole and his raps about being the best rapper alive, and you know, some bars can be a little bit questionable, especially when he talks about his identity as a biracial man, and I get it. It could be very off-putting. Some of the way he tackles topics I can understand could be off-putting. But at the end of the day, I think J. Cole's intentions are not as evil as people make them out to be. I know on Safety there was a whole discourse about his bars and how he was describing the LGBTQIA plus community. And I took it as... Personally, I didn't take it as homophobia. The song is about regret. The song is about regret and missing your homies, regretting the time that has passed. And this song is a perfect allegory for that. And when he's talking about the passing of his LGBTQIA plus friend, he's talking about, dang, man, like the way we talked about him was awful. He almost says the F slur, but he's like, nah, no. That's wrong. We were wrong. I wish I could apologize to him. We did him wrong. We were blocking all this love in his life, and he was just a human being that deserved so much. He wasn't using that as a way to describe people in the community as that way. He was using it as a build up to, like, ultimately the F slur, and be like, no, all this is wrong. I rebuke all this in the way we used to speak about people in that community, and we needed to do better. I just feel like people looking at this album with a very negative and critical eye, which you should. J. Cole has been hyping this up for a very long time, 7 years. He's been hyping this up since KOD, which came out in like 2017. And I can understand people's lens of looking at this album through, and you know, especially with the apology to Kendrick Kendrick, I know there's still some hangups about that, which that's a whole other video in of itself. But at the end of the day, J. Cole has stayed the same throughout his career. This relatable guy who shows that there are many different ways of fame and handling certain topics. I know there's discourse about, oh, J. Cole talks about the same thing, but for this, there's a reason for J. Cole to talk about going to Fayetteville, coming out of it, and his situations, because this album is a tribute to his legacy. It is a tribute to the trials and tribulations he's been through with fame, understanding that fame is a necessary drug. He said on Bombs in the Ville that fame is a drug that you have to take. And then Quick Stop, he's like, oh my God, I finally get it. I understand that, you know, I try to hide, I try to wear this big double XL hoodie, but at the end of the day, I've left an impact on people. I need to embrace that more. And he talks about hugging the fan and talks about holding with the brace and be like, thank you for this, you know? And it's so cool to see him with this whole trunk sale, meeting fans, thanking them, embracing the love from the community. That's what J. Cole is at the end of the day. And I'm always going to respect that. Even, you know, when he says some bars, I'm like, I don't know. I don't think you should be tackling like this. There's definitely room to criticize J. Cole, as there is room to criticize any of our favorite artists. But at the end of the day, Cole isn't doing this from a place of malice. He's doing this from a place of trying to get his point across. Especially with Run a Train, he was talking about the genocide in Palestine, and he was comparing it to street violence. And some people took that as a way of saying, oh, so you comparing gang violence to, you know, the genocide. Those are two completely different things. And while there are, what J. Cole was trying to demonstrate was that there is an interconnectivity between the violence in our communities and the violence that is happening in Palestine. He wasn't making a direct correlation between street violence and the genocide. He was saying that, hey, our struggles are interconnected. We are struggling under the same system, white supremacy. The police officers that terrorize our communities are literally trained by the IDF. You could look this up. Our struggles are more interconnected than you would think, and J. Cole was highlighting that with these bars. Is there room to criticize J. Cole and the way he tackles certain topics? Yes. Is this a perfect album? No. But where this album shines and where J. Cole truly shines is getting his point across through his relatability, his proficiency as a rap artist, and how far he's come in the game. In conclusion, this album is a beautiful piece of art, a concise body of work that is a tribute to not only J. Cole's legacy, but to his fans and to this little thing we all call hip-hop. J. Cole is truly growing in his artistry and shows through this album that he is one of the best in the rap game. No one is really rapping at a level like him. Yes, Kendrick. Best rap artist of the generation, if you honestly ask me. But J. Cole's level of relatability and proficiency in storytelling is something you don't really get in hip-hop these days, and I hope the fall-off inspires artists to really take a look at their lyrics and the stories that they are trying to convey. At the end of the day, this album is a hit, and I think with enough time, the criticism settles down, when we really have time to digest this lengthy body of work, it will go down in hip-hop history. I thank J. Cole for not only this album, but for what he represents. That chasing our dreams no matter what can take us so far. Who in here heard of Fayetteville, North Carolina before J. Cole? I know multiple people who have grown up in North Carolina their entire lives and have never heard of Fayetteville or have never been past there. J. Cole put that city on the map and dedicates so much of his career to the amplification of that city, of his struggles, and shows us what it means to truly give our all to our dreams. Dreamville, baby. And that is my review of The Fall Off. Truly a 9 out of 10 album. In my honest opinion, I had so much fun. I cried. I'll be listening to this album multiple times throughout the year. I don't know what my Spotify rap is going to look like, but what did you think of The Fall Off if you listened to it? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Do you disagree with me? I'm here for all discussions. So happy back once again. Thank you for y'all patience. Thank y'all for watching this lengthy video, and I will see y'all soon. Peace, love, safety. Until next time.